for joining us. We've dragged you out the dressing room where I imagine there's nice celebrations going on. Tell us how much of a relief, I suppose, that performance was, not just for you and the players, but for your fans as well.
Yeah, I think relief's the correct word. We were confident going into the game. We'd had a really good 3 days in terms of meetings, trainings, and the boys seemed in a good place, but you never know. And we really wanted to shift the momentum. Our form hasn't been great recently, so I think that's where the relief comes in.
I know you've done this before, but how much of a whirlwind has this last week been for you?
Yeah, I did it for a week before, so I kind of knew what I was stepping into. It was actually easier than the last time because I have a relationship with the players. I've worked with them for 3 or 4 months now. I'd been a part of the backroom staff, so I had a feel for where they were psychologically and what the performance needed and how to improve that. So it's been intense, but not as crazy as the last time, I think.
What were the main differences in the performance today? What do you think before you watch it back, just off the top of your head? Obviously, it's really fresh. What were the main? What was better? What was better in and out of possession today?
I think we wanted to be really, really clear with how we wanted to play and set up against Leeds. So we had some real principles that we went after. We knew that they were going to think we were vulnerable and they were going to come for us early in the game. So you see the first goal, we'd set up Pedro Neto to drop down and create space to run into. We wanted to give Rob the option to go direct and not always have to play through. Even the first goal kick we kicked because we knew we were in a bit of a vulnerable place. So we wanted to take that pressure away from them. And then in the second phase, when it drops and they're in more of a back five, we can start to take control of the game.
And was the idea to pin that? Because we spoke about that from a Leeds point of view, they had to change something at half-time because you were really pinning that 5 and you were dominating possession because you had the overload 7v5, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So we knew that they were at their most dangerous when we had deep possession because they were going to come man for man. So we wanted to negate that by going longer, force them, create a bit of fear in them because we've got athletes in our top line. And then once they dropped, we got space to play. And I thought Enzo's positioning was brilliant where he was just pulling wider and pinning the right winger. So we had a spare man in the build and we took control of that and really pleased with how they carried it out.
Can I ask you about Enzo Fernandez? Because he was brilliant for you when you took the job last time. I thought he was outstanding today. Is it great having a leader like that in your team? He seems like he's one of them sort of players that can he takes what the manager wants and gets it on the pitch.
I think it's a really good point. He can definitely do what you want from a tactical perspective. But I think today the most impressive thing about him was when the tactics went out the window and Leeds were on top. He's just a fighter. He's just and we don't have to have the perfect game plan in those moments because he'll run, he'll compete, he'll tackle, he'll drive the players on. So I thought that was what was probably the deciding factor in the game.
Yeah, which is often what changes games. Games you can set up tactics as much as you like, and then sometimes it's when it gets scrappy, you need players like that. Can also ask you about Lavia today, 60 minutes in his legs. That's a positive sign for Chelsea.
Yeah, massive. He's been coming back slowly. He's had a lot of injuries, obviously. I've known Romeo for a long time. I worked with him 5 years ago at Manchester City, so I know his level, I know his talent. We've also got Andre Santos, so it was a tough call. We've got Dario Sugo. We've got a lot of talent in those positions. Enzo can play there. But I'm really happy for Rom today because it's been tough for him, and I do think in that first half, him and Moy were exceptional.
Yeah. I found having somebody like Joao Pedro up top, he gave you lot so much, held the ball up really well when there were tricky passes coming into him. He occupied the 3 centre-halves for Leeds United in the first half especially, and then the 2 in the second half. That must be relieving, just to have somebody like that in your starting 11.
Well, you've played there, so you know how important it is, especially against teams like Leeds where they're going to come for you. And I felt like whenever they were aggressive, we had an outlet just to go in. And his quality on bouncing balls or half sets, I thought was exceptional. And yeah, he nearly scored a great goal as well, hit the post. So it was really good to have Joao back. But that being said, Liam's done a good job for us over the last 2 games, and it's nice to have 2 that you can rely on. And I just felt like with the way the game was going in the second half that I didn't want to make too many changes, and we stretched Joao for as long as we could.
Yeah.
Callum, you've got just under 3 weeks now until the final. You know Man City. You've actually, when you were originally at the beginning, what was it, in January, taking over, you were against Manchester City. You managed to get a draw out of that one as well. So can I almost say, like, you come with a plan? You kind of know Man City aren't this kind of entity that you don't think you can beat.
Yeah, you can come with a plan, but they're an unbelievable side. We'll always have a plan for every game we play. So will the opponents, and they're an exceptional side in really good form. So it's going to be a massive challenge, but I think there's something about this group that the bigger the game, the tougher the opponent and the circumstance. They seem to raise their level. We saw that against PSG in the Club World Cup. We've seen that numerous times this year. So we need to get the plan right, but also, like I said, that you can't always get that right against top teams. So it's more about the character as well.
Okay, Callum, we'll let you go. Congratulations. Well done. You're into the final of the FA Cup. Brilliant performance from you and your team today as well. Well done. We're going to look ahead to that final now with our three pundits and let Callum go and enjoy that. I thought that was a really insightful interview, actually. I really enjoyed that, Joe.
Yeah, listen, like you said, it is meteoric. It is, there's no one way, there's no fixed way to get to the top in your profession, in any profession, particularly football. So you got to he's there, he's in the seat. He could be managing Chelsea in an FA Cup final. Yeah. Do you know how privileged that is and what a position that is? And he would have been dreaming of it for when he started his coaching career. And he's got a group of players. Listen, Manchester City, they are the big bad wolves at the moment. They are the team to beat. But he's right. Chelsea have turned up in big games. If anything, this group of players, when they get that little bit of fear in them, Stevie, they seem to they grow. Some players can do. Some groups of players can do it against everyone. Some groups of players need to get a bit of fear in their bones. And you never know. You never know on a day. I think anything could happen.
The last time they actually beat Man City was in that 2021 Champions League final. They played each other 13 times since, and they haven't managed to beat Manchester City in those games, Stevie.
Yeah, well, listen, not many teams have success against Manchester City, especially under Pep Guardiola, but Joe will tell you, and Jermaine, in the FA Cup final, the magic of the FA Cup, anything can happen. You can get a red card, games can twist and turn. But this team and this performance that I watched today has got a much better chance than the one I've watched for the majority of the season. And I was really impressed with his interview there. Callum was really calm, really normal, and it's important he's just himself.
Yeah.
Be yourself, don't change. He doesn't have to go and try and be someone else that he's not. Just be yourself, take each day as it comes. He's gave the Chelsea fans and the ex-players something to really look forward to in a few weeks. There's a lot more positivity, a lot more brightness about how the season could finish and look. Just worry about the next game. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, look, we're going to get more. What did you make of that as a whole?
I thought Chelsea were much improved to a man. People will talk about the goal, the winning goal, and you get the headlines for that. But I think across the board, the structure of the team was better. There's a lot more fight, a lot more passion within that. I thought Callum's got his game plan spot on. Leeds, I think, will go away from this game full of regret, really, that they never really got going till the second half. And they had one good chance either side of the half, but it's not enough in a semi-final if you want to knock Chelsea out of this cup.
Callum now, that's his third game in charge across 2 spells as interim manager. And we were talking just before we had to go to the break and before the interview with Sanchez, with Robert Sanchez. The players pushed him in front of the fans to celebrate with them. And it just seemed to be a bit of unity in a team that had perhaps been struggling for a while.
Yeah, because sometimes when you go through a difficult period, something like that can bring you together. I mean, Callum's clearly popular with the players. I mean, it's a meteoric rise. He's gone from semi-professional football, academy football. Now he's manager in Chelsea at Wembley, taking them to an FA Cup final. What I would say is the team, in all of his games in charge, have looked really structured. They're playing for him. He's clearly got a rapport with the players. But what I would say about managers, and Stevie knows a lot better than me, is you can sometimes watch a player for 1 or 2 games and you can go, I like him. I think managers, you have to let him go for like a couple of years before you see what they're true worth. But he's had an impact and he should be really proud of his day's work.
Do you think Chelsea fans would be frustrated that they've waited for a good performance like this for a while, or just pleased that they got to the final? They can be both, I suppose.
I was literally just about to say, they will be both. They'll be disappointed and frustrated that it's taken for Chelsea to be at the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley Stadium to see a performance that the fans should be used to seeing. The last 5 games, for example, have been terrible from Chelsea's, from the standards Chelsea have set over the last, I don't even know how many decades. The fans will watch that and say, well, why on earth have we not been doing that over the last few months? Yeah. Disappointed.
Stephen, let's go and relive the goal. Sanchez just said, look, this was a move that we've been practicing on the training ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't really see clear the screen. If you can bring it a little bit closer,
it'll be in the Leeds press.
It'll be helpful. But listen, it was the first time that Leeds left a 3v3 at the back. The wing-backs had pushed on. They were more aggressive at this stage. Pastoral Strook's not strong enough. He gets out-muscled by Pedro Neto. But this cross here, Coley will tell you, is absolutely gorgeous. It's got nice feel on it, nice shape, and it's perfect for Fernandes, who's arriving in the box. And as a midfielder, that's what you've got to do. You've got to attack the goal frame. If you watch his movements here, it's really, really clever. There's the pass that breaks the line. And Neto just has a little look up. There's the feel, double movement. You head it down, the keeper's got no chance. It's a really good goal. Really good goal.
Elite level movement from a midfielder. You get great midfielders who can arrive and score goals, but strikers, that's what you teach them. He sort of sucked Justin into the near post And a moment he's off his gaze, he's off his shoulder, going to that back post, and it's a wonderful ball. And listen, Enzo, like I said, wherever you talk about him, things he says and everything, when he's on the pitch, he does it, and you want him next to you. He was top.
A real good midfield performance today.
Jermaine, what about the chances that Leeds had? Will they look back on those and be disappointed that they didn't put some of those away? There are a couple of good ones.
Yeah, there were a couple. Not as many as we're used to seeing from a Leeds United team. Especially the very first one. In the first couple of minutes, you have to look at Brendan Aronson. I said that at half-time. When you're closing the goalkeeper down, he almost commits nice and early. So he leaves a little bit of a gap on his left-hand side. That's a lovely, beautiful strike at the beginning of the second half. You have to have a quick glance up, see where the goalkeeper's going. You know where the ball is. You have to keep it, get a nice, clean strike on it. That one there, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was absolutely unlucky. Like similar cross in the first half. Neto, great cross. Just need a little bit more direction.
Ali was going crazy up there as well. It's funny you should say that. Ali's getting all dramatic up there. Headed back towards that post, centre forwards. I mean, that's the service you dream of, you know?
Absolutely, but I'll be honest, I'm not heading it. I'm going for an overhead kick.
Show off. Look, I think we kind of saw as well today what João Pedro brings when he's in the team and how much they've missed him when he's been out of it.
Yeah, that Brazilian favela street football flair. Like, he plays with a freedom. I loved him today. He was dropping off in the pockets. He'd done his centre forward job. He held up the play, and then when he got into these positions, he was picking the right passes. They didn't know whether to go with him when he went into the pockets. He's got that. He could have scored there. He could have gone. He could have run in behind. He was such a problem for Leeds. And when he's on song, you've seen the influence. He's been out the team, and we've looked a little bit off it. When he's back in the team, we're just so much more balanced, Stevie.
He was a great focal point today. Lovely mover with the ball. I mean, can you remember the one second half where Cucurella's wrapped one in?
Oh my God.
And you're thinking as a centre forward, thanks for that. Yeah. It's coming in neck height and his first touch, it was like Velcro. It was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I mean, I think Chelsea look a different team with him in. And yeah, I thought he made a big difference today. What
about for Leeds' now season? Because in terms of like in the Premier League, they're not 100% safe. They have got to those 40-point marks, and that's kind of relatively mathematically. It's not, but we kind of look at that and we go, look, they're safe pretty much. How do you kind of sum it up as a whole for Daniel Farke and how successful it's been for him?
Look, everybody would be disappointed with today's result. It was a great opportunity to get the win against the side that's slightly disjointed. I mentioned that earlier. But as a whole, reaching the 40-point mark with a few games left to go, the teams below Leeds United are not going to beat them they're not going to win 3 out of the 4 games to push Leeds in the relegation zone without Leeds picking up a single point. So I would like to argue Leeds United are safe. It's been a very good season, all things considered. Disappointed today. Daniel Farke will be disappointed with the performance of the first half, especially. Stevie mentioned that before. But it's a newly promoted side reaching the FA Cup semi-final and safe in the Premier League. I mean, it's a win-win.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Robert, massive congratulations. Chelsea are FA Cup finalists after a difficult few weeks. How does it feel to reach the final?
I think it's amazing. I think the boys reacted exactly the way they should have. We had tried to keep it really positive for training. And obviously it was another chance to be in another final. So that's what we've been working for, and the boys perform, and it's amazing.
You made some important saves in the game as well. After a bit of a challenging season, up and down all year, how did it feel for you to play such a big part in an important game like this?
I'm happy. I mean, I always try to do my job, like you said, we go for ups and downs. I think I'm very happy with the season I had. But obviously now the important thing is try to finish on a high. 4 Premier League games to go, and obviously the final, so try to do our best.
You were involved in the build-up to the goal as well. Chelsea's first goal in 300 minutes. That must have been a relief to see that go in.
That comes straight from the training ground. We practiced it, we did it, and obviously the boys jammed, they fight for the second balls, and they created the goal, so perfect.
Listen to these fans here at Wembley as well today. There will be a lot of Chelsea fans wondering where a performance like that has been recently. Did you feel like you owed that to them today?
I think so. I think they deserve, obviously it's a winning team, they deserve moments like this. I don't think this season will have many. So it's good to give them a little bit back after a tough period.
Tough few days as well, losing your former manager Liam Rosenior, Callum McFarlane back in interim charge. What's he done in the last few days?
like I said, keep it positive, focusing on the next games. We had 6 games to go. That's what we keep saying. We're going to win today and go to the final 4 Premier League games. Keeping it positive, and obviously it's on us to try to qualify for Champions League and to try to win the final. So, yeah.
And in that final, it's Manchester City, who Chelsea haven't beaten since the 2021 Champions League final. So what would it mean to all of you, all the players around here, everyone at the club, to beat them and lift silverware?
It would mean something great after what a tough season. So we're going to go there, fight, and put everything on the pitch.
Well played today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Final, where of course they will take on Manchester City. You would suggest they would go into that game as underdogs, as City, of course, looking to make the treble. Those stats kind of sum it up.
Oh, hold on. Did Leeds really have 10 efforts on goal?
Yeah, they had efforts.
Well, that tells you. Look at the XG. You know, Leeds supposed to be more of a threat. It just didn't feel that way, did it?
You felt that Chelsea, once they got the goal, they felt they did enough, and they were asking Leeds to try and get them, and of course they never did.
Well, Leeds did change their shape in the second half. Nedum talked about it. They went to a back 4. They took Aronson and Okafor and they put them a little bit wider, and that just kept Gusto and Cucurella on the back foot a little bit more, but it didn't really make them more creative. What it did do, they were able to pick up the second balls 20-30 yards higher up the field, so they had a bit more pressure and it felt like they had more possession, but they don't have. We were talking about it, Nedum and I. If a bad ball was played up to João Pedro, he did something brilliant with it generally, and he was able to get hold of it. If a bad ball was going up to Calvert-Lewin, he wasn't really able to get hold of it, and that was the difference. The difference between the two sides was the quality of the possession of the ball.
If Leon Rossinha was still in charge, would we have seen the same game?
That's a nice question. Have that one. I'm not sure. I think, to be honest, the way the game started was more to do with how Leeds started the game than as opposed to how Chelsea did. I don't think Chelsea did anything that was extraordinary, but Leeds themselves, they're almost playing scared that first half, which you absolutely cannot do. That's why some of the Leeds fans were sort of booing at half-time.
Right.
Because this isn't why they all came down here. This isn't the run that they've had at this in recent weeks to get themselves this opportunity. So let's give Liam Rossinha the benefit of the doubt and say that this wasn't really about Chelsea to start with. It was very much about Leeds. But to give Chelsea credit, that second half, they barely had any attempts on goal. So they had to dig in, they had to fight, which were things that they were being questioned in recent weeks. So maybe that's the other side of that coin.
You just feel if they played a better side, and obviously City in the final, if they do secede a little bit in the game, a better team will punish them.
Yes.
Leeds could not.
But this game, you can only beat what's in front of you. Chelsea haven't been able to do that of late. They haven't been able to score of late.
Absolutely.
They get the win, and they're through to the FA Cup final.
Absolutely, and that'll give them some confidence. But again, we saw a Leeds side here today, and you talk about when you come to a big occasion like this, and it doesn't happen very often for a lot of players, so when you get this opportunity, you don't want to go home tonight and say, what the hell were we doing in that first 45 minutes?
Right.
Yeah.
We were it was almost like we're playing Chelsea today. We're not even in the Premier League. We're going to watch them play, and Lavia and Caicedo and Fernandes in particular were allowed to play. Neto was always a threat. João Pedro was brilliant up front at times, as he is. He's a wonderful, wonderful player. But from Leeds' point of view, they stood off Chelsea. But listen, if you're a blue coat owner of this football club, Chelsea that is, and you're a blue, you are wiping your brow tonight. The fact that there's a little bit, a smidge of pressure taken off you for now.
Let's welcome in Stuart Robson. Joins us, of course, he was calling Sky. Hello, Robbo.
Hello.
Yes. Oh, look at that.
Was that a better game than yesterday?
Two buttons under.
It was a much better game than yesterday.
Yeah.
Because
not in the first half.
Game watching.
no,
At least we had a nice goal yesterday.
the first half, Chelsea played some decent football. They were allowed to play. I heard what you were talking about at half-time.
Yeah.
And the change of system made it more competitive.
Yeah.
But did Leeds have enough in the front areas? Not really. Did they get enough crosses in the box? Not really. Were they, when they had the ball in at the back and played into midfield, did they look as though they were going to open up Chelsea? Not really. But they had a big chance.
I asked Aidan this question. If Rossinha was in charge, would it have been the same thing?
No, I don't think it was. I think the sacking of Rossinha made the Chelsea players think they've got something more to play for, because they'd given up on the manager.
Yeah.
They didn't like his tactics. You saw that against Brighton. Today, I thought they played some of the football that we saw from Maresca. That when they were playing in midfield and they played those little square passes and they were playing it round the corner, Gusto was finding that space coming into midfield. So that was back to the Maresca days when they were playing well.
He became a bit of a poison. you know, when the manager actually becomes a bit of a poison in the dressing room.
Right, when it's toxic.
Well, he's thrown players that I'm banning him, and I've spoke to him, and I've had a good conversation, and he's not banned, but he is banned. You know, all of a sudden the players are looking at you and thinking, am I next? And that's a problem, and then you see that in performance. But Robert, there was too many times in that first half they had 5 at the back, Leeds.
Yeah.
And one guy to pick up, and Goodmanson, Nathan and I kept saying on this left-hand side, Goodmanson and Strout were having a tough time.
Yeah. Well, there was once when Strout could have played the ball. Goodmanson made a good run down the left hand side, and I think 36,000 people told him where he should have passed it, and he went back the other way through.
Yeah,
they had no idea of patterns of play in that first half, Leeds. When they had the ball at the back, where were they going to go with it? They went into Ampadu. Ampadu went back to the centre half. The centre half turned around. Biol, that's probably why they were taken off. But the change of system made them more competitive. They could get tighter to midfield. They could go and press the ball a bit higher up the field.
So what happens next for Chelsea, Robert? We were talking beforehand about the possibility as who was coming in as manager. Is it a poison chalice? Is it a challenge? Is it something that a manager can succeed in? Or is it coming in and being told what to do by Bluecoat?
Maresca wasn't sacked because the results weren't good enough. He was sacked because he didn't like, or he went against the club because he didn't like the way the club was being run, how he was told to manage the team, how he was told to change the players, how he was told by the medical side, you can't play him this week, you can't play him that week. What manager wants to put up with that? That's a very difficult situation. I heard Craig talking, I think it was at half-time, saying about, you know, you've got to go in and say, this is what I'm going to do as the manager.
Right.
And what are you going to do for me? And how are you going to try and manage me? And if he doesn't like that, he's going to say, no, sorry, I can't take the job.
Tuchel, Pochettino, Potter, obviously, Rossinha, you know, they've all come and they've all gone. Why is it going to be any difference for whoever comes in?
Some of them gone for different reasons.
Right.
You know, Potter went, and I'm not saying the control wasn't a problem, but Potter went because Tuchel went because the football got a bit dull and boring, and he likes to have power. Potter went because he couldn't get them playing. Pochettino, I think, just, you know, again, he's been at a higher level, and he wouldn't accept it. And Maresca was being told by the sports scientists how he couldn't play and how long he could play them.
Right.
And Liam Rossinha just made a complete mess of it. He was out his depth. You know, favourite on the list was Andoni Areola. I don't think there's many people around will say he's not a very good manager. The problem is, you know, A, does he want to go back to Spain with the family? And B, is there anything else out there, i.e., you know, Carrick's not a shoe-in at Man United? And actually, believe it or not, Man United have been run better than Chelsea, and that is saying,
who would have thought we'd be saying that?
That is saying something. So there are other jobs out there that Andoni Areola and one or two managers that are pretty hot maybe looking at, and when you look at certain other jobs and you say, yeah, maybe the team's not quite as good, but I'm not going to get stitched up at that club as much as I'm going to get stitched up maybe at Chelsea. That could put some off, and we talked about this before. The meddling at Chelsea could put good managers off.
I think it could, but as every
manager... What are you going to say, money?
Money always helps. But I think all the coaches that you've spoken about, as they've had their jobs and lost their jobs, the job description becomes more and more specific. I think we can see some of the issues that exist, but there's some managers who might not see that as a concern. I think the more experienced ones who've experienced something different in the past, to where they almost have autonomy over not just a team but a football club, that's fine. Whereas I think there are some head coaches who look at that other stuff and they probably don't even want to deal with that on a day-to-day basis.
I would say now that the next manager that comes in has got more power, because he can say to them, you've messed it up on several occasions. You've said to the managers that they don't want this. Managers don't want this.
Right.
You've got to re-look at how you run this football club. Are you going to tell me how to pick the team? Are you going to tell me who can and can't play? No. And any manager worth his salt is not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, I agree, but I just think that some of the managers which we're speaking of, some of the older, more experienced ones, Chelsea's not the right time for them in this instance. And I would say that about lots of clubs, not just in England, but around Europe as well. I think this is more so the rise of the younger type head coach.
But then they tried that with Rossinha and it absolutely went wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. But
then, are you saying younger type head coach because they will take that? And they will be less aggressive.
I feel like a more experienced manager, the longer they spend at a football club, the more control that they have, and that's what they become used to.
But you could go for a young coach that's had some sort of success.
Who would that be?
Well, that's what you've got to look at. I mean, because Rossinha hasn't had any sort of success. You cannot say getting Hull to 7th place or whatever he did in the league, going to Strasbourg and getting them into 7th place, that he was ready to take on a massive job like Chelsea.
Okay, side question here then. In terms of that type of manager and profile, especially in terms of managing the crowd players and so on, is an example not like a Vincent Kompany, or even, say, for example, like Cesc Fabregas going to somewhere like Como. These young managers competing at some of the biggest leagues.
But if you said Cesc Fabregas, he's taken a team right down at the bottom to taking them into 4th place. That's success.
But do you think he's managed that team or just been a head coach for that team?
I think he's been a head coach for that team.
So
and now that's. But he's still, even if you're the head coach, you've still got to manage the people above you to say, don't interfere with my coaching. Don't interfere with the way I pick the team. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. Now, you've given me the job. Make sure I'm allowed to do the job.
I feel, because I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but I feel if they would have found a coach in a similar sort of profile to Rosenior, I think it could have been successful. But I think there's something about Liam in this instance at Chelsea to where it didn't work.
Oh, he's Liam now, is he?
Well, to be fair, I did play with him, excuse me.
I think the respecting the ball stuff didn't help.
Yeah, to that point.
But the respect to the ball stuff came from Reece James. That's the thing. It wasn't Liam, but that got attached to him. So he's tried to empower that player who suggested that. But that got attached to him because I think for quite a few of us, some of our subconscious bias against Rosenior, I'll say Rosenior to be correct now, you know, that started to manifest itself where everything he said that we didn't like, said, well, this isn't the right job for him, in my opinion.
Look, Chelsea have just got to the FA Cup final.
Yes.
There's players to work with. Not perfect, but there are some good players to work with. I don't get Garnacho, that kind of signing. And there's been signings, Mihailo Mudryk, who has some legal issues to deal with. But even before that, you know, it was almost like they signed him because somebody else wanted him.
Yeah.
Very raw. So they have got some players to work with, not enough to challenge clearly for the top honours in England, i.e. the Premier League. But yeah, I mean, if a manager wants to come in and most of them think they can make a difference, I think they'll get a decent hire. What the ownership will do, and whether, as Robbo said, they will learn some lessons, and I don't think I'm not convinced they will learn any lessons about their meddling. Yeah. With, you know, sporting directors and how many of them is, and sports scientists, I'm not sure there will be a sea change. I think somebody's just going to be able to handle that slightly better, and I don't know who that man is, but they have averted a disaster today in relative terms, because the season was going downhill. Like a downhill skier, and fast. They couldn't win a game. They were dishevelled almost in every game they played recently, apart from Port Vale, who are in the 3rd tier. So at least today at Wembley, albeit Leeds didn't have a great game, Chelsea put on a performance good enough to get to the FA Cup final. And from where they've been recently, that's a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
well, what you could
they're the world champions, and now they could be the FA Cup champions.
They could just bookend the year.
Yeah, exactly, with 2 trophies.
There's a massive difference between the sets of players today. The ability of the Chelsea players and the ability of the Leeds
Now, that'll be
players.
different for the final, where Chelsea will go in as underdogs, obviously.
I would say so, because Manchester City are on a good run of form. Whether they play their strongest team, depending how they've done in the Premier League at the time. But they still go in as favourites because Man City are on a good roll. They know exactly what they're trying to do. The manager has been there for years and seems to bring in the best out of players in this time of the year. And Chelsea, it's one game we've seen that they played well. That's all.
No offence to Leeds, but this is the final kind of you want. You want 2 teams that are going to go for it, as opposed to what we've seen from Leeds and Southampton. And as much as the fans have enjoyed themselves, they've had to sit in. We're just taking the entertainment level out of these games.
To be honest, from my perspective, of the 2 games that we've seen, the second half for Leeds was the more progressive of the 2 underdogs. I think Southampton yesterday, especially as the game wore on, they were retreating more and more and
but
more.
We're not going to get that in the final.
You probably shouldn't. I think the finish from Azaz was a brilliant finish. You know, if it wasn't for Nico Gonzalez scoring yesterday, you'd probably talk about that more. And then today, that first half from Leeds, Premier League to Premier League's pathetic.
You said to me up there, in the first half against a better team yesterday, Southampton were as competitive.
Yes.
Right.
As Leeds were today.
Yeah. Okay.
And that kind of tells us.
I'm trying to look to the final. You keep dragging me back to
sorry,
Leeds.
it's my fault. I thought in that first half Leeds were hiding. And I think at times on these sorts of big occasions, there's a difference why some people can step up in the moment, some can't. And when you then allow Leeds to be the protagonist in that second half, it's why the highlight was literally 30 seconds. Because unfortunately, they didn't necessarily have that creativity. But the final itself...
Yes, good, right.
However Chelsea are playing at the moment, and they played OK today, there still won't be fear going into the game against Man City. And that's what these 2 sides, Southampton and Leeds, had fear going into the game. And that's why it becomes one-sided.
I think for the final, it will be... I think it'll be a really good game of football, because for Chelsea, they realise they've got nothing to lose at that point. From a City perspective, if they were to lose that final, that's 3 FA Cup finals in a row. And this is sort of drawing the curtain down on quite a few of those careers. It might be the manager, it's definitely Bernardo Silva, it's definitely John Stones, and a few others. So it's a really significant game for them. But Chelsea know that they're good enough to be able to cause problems.
It's, you know, the league table doesn't lie. The best team are Manchester City. The best.
Well, Arsenal are top, so therefore.
Well,
Arsenal. But
they're not playing Arsenal.
So thanks for that, Thank you very much.
What is it Stevie said? Smarty pants. It's good to know your smarty pants attitude travels all the way to London.
Yeah.
I thought the transatlantic journey was somewhat.
What if you're going to say something like the table doesn't lie? City are the best team when Arsenal are sitting at the top.
Well, City are the best team against the opponents they're playing.
Well, you didn't put that bit in, did you?
Well, it's obvious.
I mean, I thought that was obvious if somebody had half a brain. Rocky, Robbo.
Well, I've got half a brain there.
I'll ask the questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, look.
That'll benefit Chelsea, though, will it? Going in without the pressure of going against the team that.
Well, there's not that big a difference.
Right.
It's not like, you know, Leeds United.
Sure.
So no, I mean, there's a big pressure. It should be super competitive. I just, you know, I'm super comfortable with Chelsea's back four under pressure, which Leeds didn't put them under enough. No, I'm not. I mean, even the high balls today. You know, I was expecting Calvert-Lewin as his bread and butter to win more flick-ons, and he didn't win enough against the two centre halves. A lot of the balls up to him weren't good, but the ones that come up that you had to challenge for, he didn't win most of them. Erling Haaland won't allow that. City won't allow that. City will not allow Chelsea the time that they got in midfield today. And when they win it back, they can play. Leeds couldn't play. Everything was rushed. Should be a great final.
Yep.
I do expect City to flex their muscles because of what Nathan said. Everything's on the table. Probably the manager's leaving. Bernardo Silva's leaving. The team's getting older, and they'll want to go out on a high. I fancy them to win that.
We'll be back here for the final.